Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of you, our esteemed viewers. I am your host, Martin, and this is the Community Chat Show. The Community Show is hosted by Center for Constitutional Governance and the Civic Space TV. We center on, in this show, on issues that affect communities in Uganda. We talk about a number of issues from human rights, business, social issues, to cultural issues, name it. And today we're discussing the shutdown of Isimba power dam. Isimba has been in the news, as you well know. It experienced a shutdown last week where, according to sources, there was an issue, a mechanical sort of a technical issue, and it was forced to shut down. For that matter, it's about 183.2 megawatt capacity could not be functional. So that brought a deficit in the power production in the country. To help me discuss further this issue, I'm joined by gentlemen who, and perhaps a lady will join us, who are well versed with this issue and who will give us the community perspective and what it means to the communities for this power dam to be shut down. We understand there have been efforts from the government and the technical team on the ground to remedy the defaults or the defects that occasioned this shutdown. As that is ongoing, it's our duty as citizens to unpack it and put enough pressure on our government and the responsible entities to ensure that such a thing never happens. I will let the conversationists introduce themselves, and then we shall kick it off. I'll begin with you, Justine.
Thank you very much, Alex, for coming us. Good afternoon to all our viewers, and thank you for always keeping up and following the community issues. You know, when you have a voice, then a few of our problems could be solved as a community. I'm equally glad to be on the panel to at least share a few ideas and also mention one or two things that I know that is happening concerning the Isimba Dam shutdown. All in all, I hope for a fruitful discussion. Thank you, Alex. I didn't mention my name, sorry. My name is Aweto Justine. I am in Northern Uganda, specifically Lira City at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Kilama, and I'm one of the panelists for today's discussion. I would love to appreciate all the listeners and our moderator for giving us opportunity to discuss this issue of Isimba Dam shutdown and its effect on the general economic growth of Uganda or economic performance of Uganda, and also the perspective of the community, considering personally I come from Northern Uganda, one of the area that even before we heard about the Isimba Dam shutdown, Northern Uganda, particularly the area, Gulu City or Acholi sub-region, is one of the area that we will always feel like we have already had Isimba Dam shutdown even before it had happened. So I think this discussion is a great opportunity for us to be able to explore some of the way that need to be put forward so that the impoverished region like Northern Uganda get a way to move away from the poverty that we saw in the recent statistic that Northern Uganda is the most poor region. Some of the reasons actually could be attributed to the low industrialization due to low power supply or the on and off power supply in Northern Uganda. Otherwise, thank you so much for having us today in this chat.
Yeah, and indeed, we shall certainly begin with you at this juncture, because you've sort of already dived in the discussion. Please help us understand what this shutdown is, and yeah, maybe before you come in, I could add on some details. Uganda's power production capacity is around 900 megawatts, and Isimba Dam alone is about 183.2 megawatts production capacity. So that means that's a big, percentage of power production. Could be maybe over 20% production. So what does it mean, for people, and what does it mean for you people in Northern Uganda? Already Uganda is not connected enough. We have only around 1 million households connected to power. But even with that little connection, now we're having challenges, shutdowns and the like. What does this mean for you? And please just continue with the perspective you're giving us, if you're okay with that, or you could even burden it further. Dennis.
Yes, my brother Alex, looking at the electricity distribution in Uganda, Isimba hydropower station is one of the biggest or the largest hydropower station in Uganda that was constructed or was commissioned in 2019. And as you stated, it generates about 183.2 megawatts. Among others, like Kira Hydropower Station, that was commissioned in the year 2000, which generate about 200 megawatts. And also Nalubade Hydro, which generate about 180 megawatts, commissioned in 1954. And also Buzagali, I think, which is commissioned in 2012. If you look at Uganda power generation, Uganda generate about 1,300 megawatts of electricity, yet the consumption, the maximum consumption is actually about only 900 megawatts, including 50 megawatts export to Kenya. If actually Uganda was to have good transmission of all the generated power, the shutdown of Isimba would actually have no impact on Uganda power distribution or electricity distribution. But there's still gaps as noted in most of the finding that the generation is quite high, but the transmission is very low. So what actually we are getting out of the total that the installed dams, including others like the city power dam, the Mubuku 1, Mubuku 2, they are generating high power, but transmission to reach actual consumption that we need is very low. So this will actually still need that to avoid this problem that Isimba breakdown or shutdown has caused, the country should have actually been looking earlier on to how can we really strike a balance to ensure the actual generation actually relate to what actually is being transmitted for consumption. Looking into this very problem of Isimba, it is sad that Isimba Dam shutdown came as an emergency, but the issue was foresighted earlier. Like notably, the Honorable Minister for Energy, Ruth Nankabira, last year in September, directed the Isimba Dam constructor, the China International Water and Electric Corporation, to rectify all the 584 defects that was detected at the plant before handing it over to the government. You'll wonder if these were done or they were not. And if they were not done, you'll also question, how do we accept to take over something which was constructed and had defects? We wouldn't be in this crisis if all this that the honorable minister recommended were done. But still, this couldn't be actually an emergency. There should have been already a plan that this thing may not actually take long if necessary precautions were not taken. That remains a question to follow. What was done from the time the honorable minister gave that recommendation? But the gross issue is that despite this shutdown, whether it has happened or not, as I mentioned earlier, Uganda electricity distribution actually is questionable under the leadership of Meme. Because you'll wonder why there's so much power or load shedding in some region of the country, while in some other region, the power actually are almost like constant. A case in point, if you come to Gulu, I would love to say at least this year we have not seen such regular massive load shedding, but it used to be very short. Like in a month, sometime power will only be there like for 2 weeks, and several approaches were made, including demonstration, to ensure at least Gulu receives some constant or regular power supply. But still, if we are to mention, I think my brother in Lira will bear witness that most heavy industry in northern Uganda are in Lira. Gulu as a city in Acholi sub-region, the power supply does not reach that capacity for industrialization. Many of the industry, people who have set some industry here, they fail actually to stabilize. And some of them, like Hare, had to move over to Lira, where at least power supply is fair compared to Gulu City. I think this is what I can give in as a preamble on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for that context. So it's clear from your submission that Uganda, quote unquote, has excess power, but the challenge is, and that is hydropower. And the challenge, I mean, if we, by the time we actually export, that means we have enough. And again, I say quote unquote. Now the challenge, as you asked, or as you put it, is so much about distribution and transmission.
Yes.
And indeed, there are actually authorities that are for that. I remember, I must say, it's a private sort of entity with no mandate to distribute or to transmit, but it's a private, sort of player. Yes, I know it has a bit of listing, but I don't think it has a mandate that has, and maybe Justine will tell us who are
yeah.
those authorities that are supposed to transmit and distribute. Yes, as you build on to what your brother was saying.
Yeah, Alex, let me even start it this way. Let me say, I don't know, about 30 years ago, we only knew it was called what? Uganda Electricity Board, UEB,
Yes.
right? We grew up knowing UEB. UEB was doing generation, yeah? It was transmitting, even the aspect of collecting or selling the power to the different parts of the community. That was what UEB was doing. But in the recent times, we have realized we have now, I think there's Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, we have Omeme, then there's Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. Now, the challenge is the company with the mandate to generate power is actually generating, but the company is supposed to transmit or ensure that power is distributed to every part of the country, so that everyone within the country that needs power actually gets that power, could be the one that is having the challenge. My brother from Gulu is talking about the power outages in Gulu. It is actually a lot. There's a demonstration. Remember the time Gulu was, the time there was a demonstration in Gulu about the load shedding. I was actually in Gulu. But in the recent time, we also known that there's a power I don't know. There's a dam that has been constructed in Agago. Agago is very close to Gulu. Yeah, but all this power that has been generated is there redundant. It has not been transmitted. It has not reached the community. So, what closure of or shutdown of the Isimba Dam means, in the simplest term for anyone in northern Uganda, is that it basically just means more load shedding. Yeah, it has already been happening even when Isimba was still up, when it was still operational. And the energy minister, Honorable Ruth Nankabira, was in parliament and explaining how long it would take for Isimba to be opened again. She talked of 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, what does it mean for people in northern Uganda? In 3 weeks, it means the industries that are running, say in Lira or even in Gulu, are going to be affected. Their levels of production is quickly going to reduce, because right now there's going to be definitely more load shedding, because what we know is with the electricity distribution companies and generation companies, that when one dam is shut down, then power has to be gotten from other parts or from other dams. Basically, it would mean one district would say stay off for a day or two while the other ones are running. Basically, that is what is going to be happening. But it has already been happening. So it means basically there's going to be more load shedding. I've had the privilege to interact with so many people, I would say, in northern Uganda, because of the nature of the work that I'm doing. I mostly do pro bono work with different organizations. But recently, I think about 3 weeks ago, I was in Oyam district, and we had gone with one of the, there's an organization, it's called it's called MECPA, Meaningful Empowerment for Change and Poverty Alleviation. There's it basically looks into areas of natural resource, energy usage, sustainable development. But when we are interacting with the people in Oyam, the community in Oyam district, we are trying to see the challenges that we are facing as far as energy usage is concerned. And one of the issues that they kept raising was there is a lot of load shedding, yeah. And we were interviewing mostly people working with hospitals, schools, yeah. and we are seeing how much power do they use, how reliable is the energy sources they're using. And it said most of them are complaining that electricity is the most unreliable energy source for them, because you cannot be sure when it is going to be there. Some people are now preferring to use solar, but we also see that solar has its limitations, yeah? Limitations in terms of installation. Solar is a little costly compared to electricity, depending on how much power you want to generate using solar. But at the end of it all, we see that so many sectors or parts of the community, I would say, is going to be affected by this load shedding. We have hospitals, we have schools, we have industries, we have homes. I also read briefly about the Isimba Dam shutdown. I was actually following it up on news and realized that power that is generated from the Isimba Dam is being used to treat and pump water from Masese water treatment plant. Now, what Masese water treatment plant is serving about 5 or 6 districts in eastern Uganda. It's pumping water to parts of Jinja, Iganga, Mayuge, Buikwe, and I think parts of Kayunga district. Now, a simple, I would say, press statement that was made by the management of Masese water treatment plant is that they were losing up to 100 million Ugandan shillings in 6 hours when they don't have power. 100 million shillings in 6 hours. Yeah, that is just half of a day, a quarter of a day, I would say. So that would mean in one day, National Water would have lost what is that? 200, 300 millions or even more. But from the energy minister saying the shutdown, probably it's going to take about 3 weeks, so we can see how much National Water is going to lose. We can see how many people are not going to have access to regular water in Jinja, in Iganga, in Mayuge, in Buikwe, in Kayunga. So it's really a big problem for us as a country if such issues are not properly looked at. And the surprising bit of it is the second time that the Isimba Dam is getting shut down. Yeah, it is not the first time. It has happened before. And the question would be, what did we learn as a country from the first shutdown? What measures have we had in place to ensure that it does not happen again? Yeah. So it's really a big problem. And also the energy minister, was it the energy minister, was saying that Uganda is now going to import power from Kenya. I think we are going to import about 60 megawatts. And yet initially, Uganda was exporting about 50 megawatts to Kenya. So now we are buying power from people who are actually buying power from us. All that, there's going to be a lot of, I would say, loss of revenue to the country, but also to the companies generating and distributing power. So the bigger question that we should be asking ourselves now is, can we trust the contractors to rectify the over 500 defects that were discovered? Yeah. My brother from Gulu was telling us there are about over 500 defects that were discovered. And the report that the energy minister gave was that some of them have been rectified, but the rectification of the defects is still ongoing. Understand the contractor had to ask for additional loans so that they could rectify the challenges. It's really a big issue. But I also think that Uganda we should look more at distribution. If we are generating more, we should not only look at the shutdown. We should not look at the 183 megawatts that we have lost. We should look at the over 500 megawatts that is not being utilized. That should be the first area of interest, I would say. Because why would they struggle so much to rectify 180 when I have about over 500 that is not being utilized. As a country, I think that is what we should be looking at. It would really help to solve some of our energy problems. That is what I can say for now. Alex, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now coming to you, Richard. Thank you, Justin, for that perspective. It's actually worrying that just less than a month ago, we were exporting. We felt we have quite a lot and we're exporting.
Yeah.
And now the country we're exporting to, we want to get from the country actually we're exporting to.
Yes.
If we are exporting, clearly there is perhaps even a shortfall with them, and now we have to import from them. Also, it's important to note that this power dam, this dam has been damn expensive for the taxpayer. We in Uganda,
yes.
It's around 2.1 trillion and
2.1 billion, trillion, yes, 2.1.
And in the for context of our international audience, that's about I don't know, 500 over $500 million, $567 million and something, and that's a damn expensive project, and for it to be breaking down at such an early age is a bit incomprehensible. And
it's worrying.
It's worrying. And we've heard that this is not the first time the dam is breaking down. It even broke down before its official commissioning. And they've been asking for extensions to rectify this, to rectify that. And apparently the 183 megawatts is not its full capacity. It's supposed to generate quite more than that. And I'm wondering, what is the role of the generation company in all this? Why haven't they ensured quality, control with this? The contractors, why haven't they been put on the spot? And we understand these contractors have been found to have inadequacies all through. And then there is literally nothing done. There is, the reports have not implicated, people in this. And what is the regulator? I'm wondering what Badru Chigundu's responsibility is. Is the chairman of something? Is it the chairman of the company?
Badru Chigundu, I think, is based more in the Karuma Dam project. That's where he is. But I think also, Alex,
because I saw him with the minister touring.
Yes, yeah. He's a big person now in energy and all that generation.
Richard, before Denis and Justin continue.
For Isimba, Senior Alex, the power generation manager is actually Mr. Michael Elimo.
Okay.
Who is the manager for the generation. And I think with Isimba right now, the issue is generation.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but yes, okay, yeah, and then the serious defects in generation, but there are also very many technical defects, as we've really seen with them. And it's appalling, the contractor, what before contracting this entity, what were their antecedents, because it seems they are having serious issues. And then I saw a report in Daily Monitor which says where a whistleblower within Isimba was saying, actually, the issue is with the technical expertise. It's very low, and the experts there haven't really acclimatized themselves with these new systems. They need further training, perhaps from earlier dams and things like that. They seem to say that the people manning it are nascents who cannot really manage, such a big power, dam or power station. Now I want to come to you, Richard. Richard, I would like you to introduce yourself and you contribute to this discussion. With Dennis and Justin have laid for us the foundation. They've given us statistics, how much electricity Uganda produces. They have dived deep into what the issue with Isimba Dam is and how much it has affected the communities, mainly in northern Uganda and obviously the country. And we've come to a consensus that there seems to be a consistent problem. And that problem is with power distribution. And you can say, and all power transmission. What is your take, Richard?
My name is Richard Drasimaku. I'm a journalist, also an editor with the Gezi News Agency. I manage the West Nile Today News, basically online media platforms. And I'm happy to be taking part in this discussion, which is basically focusing, it's more of a post-mortem of this recent breakdown in Isimba. And I think it was very unfortunate that it happened. And to me, it points to poor management at that facility. And I don't know why some people there didn't resign their positions or why they were not fired in the first place. You can't have such a massive investment and there are people there, and they can't manage the thing well. You know, the reports which are coming out of that place were just absurd, saying someone probably pressed the wrong button, which opened, the floodgates and so on. That's really something which will not be happening at a very big facility like that. It's true that Isimba contributes a lot of power, and when it goes down, the impact is massive. But also, what that means is that, in fact, the power we are generating is still not enough to begin with. I think the issue here is people, they are demanding for power, they want to use power, but the generation is not enough, and the one which is generated is also not transmitted to people. And that's why entities like the rural, it is rare they should be acting to take the power to the rural communities and the upcoming urban centers. I think we've been talking of Karuma of late. They had said it was going to come online last year. They pushed it to September this year. It has been pushed again to next year. And this would have added like 600 megawatts. If we add that power station operational, losing like 183, we will not have had an impact. So I think the issue of generation, we need to improve on it, first and foremost, and secondly, distribution and also efficiency of the distribution lines, because a lot of this power is also lost, during transmission. It doesn't reach the end users, and that's why some of the power which is distributed, we are not making good use of it. Those are areas that really need improvement. We have been talking recently of ourselves as being, a middle-income country. Now, what kind of middle-income country is that one which doesn't have sufficient power? Power is needed to run the hospitals. Power is needed to run the businesses, the industries. Power is needed to create, employment opportunities, and all this just dies when one unit goes offline like that. I think we have a lot of potential for electricity generation. Ayago is still there, it has not come online. We have Kiba, we have these Oriang, these stations which are earmarked in Noya district. They would have added a lot of power, and this will not be having these intermittent problems. And again, if you look at the projections for 2040, the vision, the national vision, they're saying by that time we should be having all these power generation units, and the hydro combined with the geothermal, combined with the solar, there will be like about 35% of what is needed. And now we have less than 20 years to reach 2040. And then you have Isimba here, which is just commissioned in 2019. Before even 5 years, it is down. So this means we have a lot to do, especially those who are supposed to do oversight there. They really need to help us as a country to ensure that we have efficient stations which just don't come online and start breaking down like that. And we have properly qualified and trained people manning these places, and they are properly supervised, so that the power that is generated, we distribute it and improve our distribution network, and then we will avoid some of these problems. Now, for us in West Nile, we actually rely less on Isimba in terms of direct power usage. What we have been having there, this mini hydro, it is a mini hydro from Nyagak, and it's just like 3.5 megawatts, which is not sufficient. And the cry there has actually been that more power is generated and taken to that region. And another problem I've seen is these monopolies. These monopoly companies, you have one company doing distribution and it is the only one in that area. You have another, like now in West Nile, we only have one record. That's why recently, even in parliament, the MPs were saying, we don't want one record there. On the ground, people are saying we don't want one record because when you have a monopoly company, the efficiency comes down. And that is exactly the issue with this Isimba, because there's only one company there which is doing the management, and the supervision is not properly done. It is compromised, and so when it breaks down, it affects the economy. So I think we need to have more companies in power generation and in power distribution, and also in selling the power to the people, so that we avoid some of these inefficiencies. To me, those are the key areas where we should focus as a nation, so that next time we really don't have such a problem. And in case it happens, it doesn't affect us because we shall have backup sources to turn to. Thank you.
I think this energy industry is one of those with quite a big number of authorities, state authorities that are supposed to sort of, manage and work in this area. We have the ERA, I think that is Electricity Regulatory Authority. We have, he talked about REA, which is supposed to actually be for, which is supposed to ensure that electricity is evenly distributed across, mainly hard or far to reach areas of the country. There are others. We've talked about UEGCL. I think there is also UEDCL or UETL. There are quite a number, all with distinctive roles. And this essentially is supposed to help with distribution of the roles, But it seems each one is failing to meet its targets, and it's failing to deliver, and it's becoming a serious issue for the country, because we know Uganda relies so much on hydro electric power. Whereas we have some fossil power from fossil energy, it's not as much as we rely on hydroelectric power, and that is the way to go, because we cannot even still rely on fossils. The entire world is going away from that. So we need power is our lifeline, and for us to continue having these snags is quite it's a big blow. maybe, I don't know if someone could perhaps comment on the processes. Some people have said that there is a lot of gray in unclarity in the processes of course, getting these companies that work on these dams, but also processes in commissioning, processes in ensuring that quality work is done. You know, I want to quote Mr. Dickens Kamugisha. He's an executive director of African Institute for Energy Governance. He said that government should get independent auditors to audit the dams, and not just the Isimba, but other dams, because this can happen in other dams. He seems to say also that that there are a lot of opaque. There is a lot of opaqueness these days. Opaque is the very fashionable word following from Kenya's election. You know, there's a lot of opaqueness or opaque processes in the construction of these dams, and let alone commissioning. So, you know, what do you think can further be done, or would you please like to comment on the opaque processes? You know, also bearing in mind that the loan to finance this Isimba, for example, is a loan from Exim Bank of China. And guess who the constructor is? The contractor of the project is again a Chinese company, China International Water and Electricity Corporation, if I get that right, or I could be corrected. How possible, you know, the financer and the Richard, a minute. So please mute. The financer and the people constructing, I would say closely. It brings into play the question of independence of these processes. You know, if the person who is financing sort of has a higher power and higher say, it could be a challenge in terms of auditing and could contribute further to opaqueness. So I want to begin with you, Justine, then we shall go to Dennis.
Very much, Alex. I want to disagree with you slightly on something that you mentioned about one of the problems facing the energy sector, or specifically the electricity sector in Uganda being. Why I say this is because up to now, Uganda is still. Yes. I think the primary problem at the moment is distribution. Yeah, because it is true that the power that is generated cannot sustain the whole country, assuming everyone in the country was to be connected to the national grid. Yeah, the power that we are generating right now cannot sustain in the country, but still, we have to know that the power that is generated is not wholly. So I think the problem is with distribution. If Uganda is producing about 1,300 megawatts and we're only consuming about 900, why haven't we been able to use the 400 or 500 megawatts as a country? I think that problem goes back to distribution. But wholesomely, I think the biggest problem we have as a country, specifically affecting the energy sector, could even be other sectors. I think one of them is contractual. I mean, what are the kind of contracts that we enter into with these companies that are constructing our dams, that are giving us loans? I mean, if Uganda as a country has gotten a loan from China Exim Bank and given the Chinese company to construct the dams, it is okay. I think that is okay. The problem is Uganda as a country getting a loan, giving a company, and the company failing to deliver. So now the question is, what safeguards do we have? What what cures do we have for this unforeseen problem? Because me, I would think it goes back to contractual in the sense that I'm a lawyer, yeah? If I'm going to have a contract between me and Alex, yeah? Say, Alex, I need a car, yeah? And I've given you, Alex, the money. If you fail to deliver a car, that is a breach. I should be compensated for your breach. That should be the same thing that should happen with the companies that are building for us these dams. Uganda has given you the money, we take the loan, the citizens are going to pay the loan, but you have failed to deliver exactly what we asked for as a country. The Isimba Dam was commissioned in 2019. This is just 2022. It's already breaking down. What does that mean? Compare it with the one commissioned in what? Was it 1954? How long has it been running? Yeah, those are over 60 years. It is still sustaining us as a country. Why should something that was built 60 years ago, I would assume that the technology back then wasn't as good as the one now. It is still running. We haven't had major issues with it. But this one that was constructed less than 5 years ago is having challenges. These companies should be brought to book. They should be sued for breach, and they should compensate us as a country for all the losses that we are incurring. The energy minister clearly stated that the estimate is about to rectify the flooding that just happened in Isimba. It's going to take about 5 billion Ugandan shillings to rectify such a problem. The question is, what has a contractor done to ensure or to cure the problem that they have created? That is a big question. But also, I don't want us to so much look at the contractor as being a problem. We actually don't know exactly what happened at the dam. The report that you read, I think that was Daily Monitor, that was reporting that the challenge could be with the engineers that are there operating and managing the dam. It is true, some of them were trained in the US, some were trained in China, but the question is, did they get the necessary training to manage the dam? Yeah, how did the flooding occur? Did one of the dam walls break down? Did someone open a floodgate that they are not supposed to open? All those are questions that we first need to answer. Yes, thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much, yes, Justin, for that. As I come to you, Dennis, you know, it's quality. Yeah, quality control is actually a serious issue when it comes to big projects, and how we Justin disagreed with my earlier posits, which is okay. But I'm wondering, is it possible for us to honestly not so much focus on the contractors, yet when it is just a few years after this, you know, commissioning, and it's actually barely 3 years after this was commissioned, and we spent a lot of money. But also, we cannot exonerate the financer. Many loan facilities, such as this one, almost, it's I mean, $500 million US, a lot of money, you know, for a project. And financiers are supposed to have serious checks and serious measures that, yes, we are loaning you this money, but there should be quality control measures, you know, to minimize loss and for insurance purposes, you know, indemnity and all those things that come with it. So a banker, the one giving the loan, cannot be exonerated because they're supposed to have mechanisms to ensure that the project they're financing does not occasion loss. Because if there are losses and things, the entire thing could get back to them, either because the money was not used for its particular use, and therefore there are some clauses that have to sort of be re-examined, you know, or it's possible for the person, the borrower, to come back for more money, you know. So there are usually serious strings attached to it. This money is being given. But if we have a financier who is dishing out money without ensuring that there are serious control measures and where the money is going the project is going to be monitored and evaluated and quality ensured, then we cannot exonerate such a financier. You know, I'm sorry to say. So this, Dennis, I don't know, what's your view on this contracting process, the opaqueness, but also on the auditing?
Yes, my brother Alex, I think the Isimba dam shutdown is an interesting topic of discussion. Everywhere in the country, people ask. Of course, there are a lot of issues surrounding the issue of constructors, generation, source of funding. We cannot go away from all those. The very thing that interests me is, look, Exim Bank come from China. They finance the Isimba Bank. Possibly a project was written to them and say, look, we want this and we don't have enough funds. Please do something for us. And it was agreed. They gave in the money. I look into the detail of how it was financed. Exim Bank gave like about 85%. Ugandan government gave 15%. Now, someone will get interested that this construction really, it didn't take so long. I think it happened in 5 years, it was done. So the question would be like, really, the source of funding, China. The constructor, China. The work right before it was commissioned, there was already a question. What went wrong and where? Any concerned citizen who feel the pain of paying the loan will ask that question. Were there no any other constructor? Who are the people who awarded the construction work to the Chinese company, who, from where also we got the funding? Was it like an agreement that, yes, if we are giving you the loan, we want this company to do the work? It's a big question. I want to interest us in issue of construction. If we cannot run away from that. Of late, many institutions in Uganda are being constructed like universities, and the founders are directly attaching themselves to the constructors. And I think it has reduced on issue of shadow work. If any organization like a case in point, Northern Uganda, when we were undergoing reconstruction post-war, there were a lot of PRDP project, NOSA project, which were attached to building institutions. But if you go to visit some of these institutions right now, you'll see tears. They are all breaking down. The old structures that were built before, these structures which are meant for PRDPs or NOSAP were put, are existing, but the one currently constructed are all breaking down. The issue is shadow work. People cocoon, or they gather together and say, give me this, I do this, because there's a kickback. I will go with you, Mr. Alex, that the question of the constructor of the Isimba Dam is a question that we need to interest ourselves in. How comes the funders or the source of the funding is the source of the constructors? Two, yes, my brother is right. Right now, Uganda, if we had a good balance between generation and transmission, we wouldn't be crying about the Isimba breakdown. Surely we wouldn't be crying of Isimba breakdown. Say, okay, you've broken down, go, we shall continue. But there's still need of striking balance. This is a big thing that should teach us, should be a lesson to the Ministry of Energy the Minister of Energy to look forward into how can we strike this balance between generation and transmission. But back to the issue of construction, I think in every government project or even private project, there are things that are done, among others are insurance. The project can be insured against a certain risk that they can really not go into total loss if they were. But now the question is, the third party also covered, like the losses that the country is registering, like the Masese Water Generation Point or the government in terms of tax, are they covered? Or is only the party or the Isimba generation company, power generation company who are covered? Because we will also look that, yes, if you are already generating, we need to cover many entities about issue to do with losses if it happened. I don't know if this cover was taken. Another thing is what we call withholding fee. If someone is actually carrying out a project, you expect that you are not so sure about how the completeness of this project would be. You'll actually task that such companies should have something like a withholding fee. The withholding fee will help to monitor how good or how complete are the project that these people have put in place. Or in other words, you can say the warranty, where there are any warrant that this company, the construction company, gave to Uganda to ensure that if the dam breaks down, at least we are still in charge for this period of time. But seriously, for the case of Isimba Dam, is right from the beginning. Problem was already spotted. The same thing is in Karuma Dam, is already worrying. We were supposed to see it done by 2019. They identified some problem. They extended their project to June this year. And again, they have extended to October this year. So it is now a big question. Karuma, which is supposed actually going to generate over 600 megawatts, is it not going to have the same issue that we are seeing in Isimba? It's a big question that as a country, as the young people, we need to interest ourselves in this kind of discussion. But everything starts from grassroots. We cannot discuss the challenge which we are already seeing. We need to start from down. What happened, where, and how can we reach to the solution? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And as you are saying that, something came up. What is the safety issue of safety measures for people who are on that dam? Well, I know these are experts. I mean, it's not just any company or any entity that can undertake such a huge project. But if we are hearing that there was a mega flooding, that increased, I think, the water levels to around, 25%, was quite, serious flooding that occurred. What is the safety of people and also people around? We know that if, that certain times dams flood and even flood neighboring areas, they cause huge water levels to rise and can even cause a surrounding area to flood. Safety of the people working there, but then also the communities around. It's important that is taken, it's considered when auditing, but also when undertaking those repairs. You've talked about Karuma, if I remember, right, the one that is supposed to generate more electricity, and big extensions and things of that nature, and again, it goes back to the commissioning processes of this Isimba Dam. Daily Monitor of 21st of August reported that, and it extensively really reported on this issue, that even before the commissioning of Isimba, there were about 584 defects detected. So this flooding wasn't unforeseen, really. It possibly was seen coming, but then there were a few measures that were taken. So as I bring you, as I bring Angela and then Richard, we want now to focus on what should be done. We've extensively discussed what the problem is. We now want to go to quick takeaways as we go into the last segment of this conversation, which should take very few minutes. What should be done? How do we move forward? We understand that the Parliament has really tasked government to make a thorough investigation and make a detailed report. And of course, that report should have recommendations. The minister says that the defect will be rectified in 3 weeks. Experts say it could take up to around 6 weeks. What should we do? What should be done? Angela, what should be done to ensure that such things do not occur again? And if they're inevitable, there are serious preparedness measures.
Yes, Martin, I've listened to the discussion and heard your question. I want to say something about, you said something in relation to safety of the people of the area. You see, before a project is undertaken, there is an environmental impact assessment for that project done. That's where all the safety issues are addressed. They are anticipated, they are addressed, the recommendations are put there, and they are supposed to be followed during the implementation and then after. So here it is an issue of really whether it was followed, whether in fact the recommendations were enforced. That is what is lacking in this area, in this part. And then secondly, also, when you are undertaking a project like that one, there is the government does the supervision, but they get a consultant company to do it on behalf of the government. And then the consultant reports to a designated engineer in the Ministry of Energy. And it is upon those recommendations that after the project is completed, the engineer writes a report. The clearance certificate is supposed to be issued to say, okay, we have accepted this. We're now taking control of the project. And then your money, the defects liability period is given for such a project. That's why I think this contractor is still on that project of Isimba, because it started breaking down before the defects liability period expired. That's why they are still doing the rectification of those defects and so on. So here the issue is the engineers in the ministry are the ones who should be explaining why they cleared such a project without a thorough, assessment. Because unless the engineer says, okay, I've accepted this, then I issue the certificate of clearance, they cannot commission such a project. That's what happens in project implementation. And it is the reason they are there in the government ministry. It is the reason they are paid salaries. So these are the people who should be held accountable to explain what has gone wrong. They are the ones who mislead the government. If you are told they are kickbacks taken, these are the kind of people who take them. The other colleague was talking about the projects of PRDP breaking down and so on. None of those projects was handed over without a certificate issued by the district engineer in those districts. They are the eyes of the government, and they are the ones who are responsible for these projects. We cannot be really much talking about where the money for these projects is coming from, like this Chinese bank. It is not a charity organization that sent that money. Those people are in business. They send money, they expect it to be paid back actually with the profit, with the interest rate. So once they have sent the money, the government of Uganda must take control to ensure that the money does the thorough work and the results, it benefits the development of the country. So to me, that's what should really be done. Thoroughly hold accountable the right people, the supervisors, the engineers who are supposed to supervise the project on behalf of the government. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, and I strongly agree with that view. Angela, if you're able to, please. Okay. Let me come back to you. Yes, Justine, and then Dennis. In 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The solution should be.
I personally think the most important, and that is the one that we should rely on most, as we should have a forensic audit. When we have a report, from there we can know where to throw blames. Is it government? Is it a contractor? Is it human negligence? Also, the report would help us as a country, or help is to avoid the occurrence of such a thing again. Like it happened during construction, now it has happened during operation. It shouldn't happen. That could help find out that, but it also reclaim compensation from the contractor. Yeah. Secondly, I think there should also be a review into some of the contracts that we have with these contractors, or whether they are constructing our roads or any of the infrastructure in the country. Our contracts should be so binding that if there is a challenge, yeah. Richard was talking about issues to do with guarantee and warranty. If the country has spent 2.1 trillion shillings to build a dam, yeah, as a contractor, what is the guarantee that it's going to work for 20 years? If it doesn't work, if it breaks down in 20 years, as a contractor, what should be done as a country? Where should we claim? But also I think that thirdly, energy sources, we shouldn't rely solely on one or two. There are other energy sources, be it geothermal, it could be solar, there's biomass and biomass. We should be looking at some of those energy sources to problems like load shedding. Another strong issue that the country should look at, not only as a Isimba, but I think there should be increased distribution. Over 400 megawatts not used, it has been generated, it has not been used, the dam has broken down. We should be tapping into that, but we can't as a country because the distribution lines have not been fully developed. I think those are some of the issues that I wanted to raise, things that can be done to solve some of the problems that are associated with shutdown of the Isimba Dam, but also any other dam if it occurs. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going for our parting short segment to, to have your, closing statement in regard to this issue and even more. Yes, I will begin with you, Dennis, again, if you're able to. Okay, then let me go to Richard. In 1 minute, please just say your parting shots.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Yeah, it was really a very unfortunate incident that Isimba went offline for some time. Glad it is coming back online, but at least we really need to be more prepared for this kind of incidences by bringing online other power stations and distributing the power to people. But also we need to strengthen our quality control mechanisms so that the projects are properly monitored and supervised during implementation. And when it comes to now operationalization, the money must be put to account. I think I'll end there. Thank you.
Yeah, Alex, I even don't know where to start from. There's a lot that has to be said. I mean, this is a big issue. It's not something that we should look at lightly. A lot of money has been spent in trillions, and we are still going to lose more. See, the challenge is sometimes that when we have load shedding, we only look at the fact that there is no power, but we don't look at the fact that how much revenue is lost from the manufacturing sector, how many lives could have been lost in hospitals because all the machines are not working. Yeah, sometimes we don't look at that. How many people are not having access to clean water because they don't have power. Those are things that we should look at clearly. But I think most important is I think our problems are basically contraction. I still want to emphasize this, that as a country, I think our problems are contractual. Either we have lawyers who are not drafting contracts that are helping us as a country, or we have crooks, I would say. I don't want to be very specific, but I think either we have lawyers that are not drafting contracts that are helping us as a country, or we have people who are deliberately putting Uganda in situations that are very unfortunate, because I still think that someone should take the blame for this outage, for the shutdown. Someone should take the blame. Someone should meet the cost. It shouldn't be us as a country. It shouldn't be the citizens. I think we are looking out or moving forward. There should be really a forensic audit into the contracts that we have, into the causes of these shutdowns and floods, so that the same problems don't happen again. But otherwise, it's been really an enlightening opportunity to listen to the views of different people, from you, Alex, from Denis, from Richard. Unfortunately, I've not been able to hear from Angela, but hopefully next time we can get a different platform and discuss more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Denis? Yeah. Okay, so ladies. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Alex.
Shots in 1 minute.
Okay, Mr. Alex, I would love to appreciate so much the platform you've given us to be able to deliberate on the issue of national importance. I love to say, as the moderator of the program, you should do this frequently and engage young people across the country to be able to engage, and if possible, even organize a more better physical forum for the people. If it's provided for, it will really be good. Based on this, I would love to say, as my brother has given most of the recommendation, we need actually all Ugandan, as me, Denis, I call all of us to become patriotic. When we are patriotic, we shall avoid any form of corruption, whether in admitting students for studies at universities, because we know if you admit a student who does not really qualify because the father maybe have money, the problem will affect the whole country. When you admit a student who is not qualified to become an engineer, the problem will therefore affect the whole country. If you get bribed to get a constructor which do shadow work, you are costing the whole country. My call to the nation, my call to the young people is, let's become patriotic, let's become whistleblower, and at our respective capacity, condemn any form of corruption that can trigger down and rot the whole country. I beg to submit. May God bless all of you.
Thank you very much. We have a contribution from Angela. Angela says that the problem is corruption and connivancy. That this is what caused the plant shutdown in Isimba, and she says that instead of government dealing with corrupt individuals, it just changes them to departments. And she says this shutdown has greatly affected women. It has greatly affected the youth. That shortages of power scare away investment in schools, investment in factories, investment in manufacturers, and it is disastrous to the economy. It also leads to serious unemployment issues. So thank you very much, all of you, for being a part of this conversation. It's important for Uganda to focus so much on ensuring that there are no glitches in renewable energy sources, because that is all we have. And that is the most sustainable way of generating power. Having this hydroelectric power, we need more of that. And any snag really takes us under the bus. We need to invest more even in solar energy, essentially all types of energy that are renewable, because that is the sustainable way. We cannot be forced to go back to old ways of generating energy. We cannot. We have the renewable way, and that is the most sustainable way we have to go. So governments and all stakeholders should take this seriously. The issue of the emergency shutdown of Isimba should not be looked at as a single event or in isolation. It should be looked at wholesomely to review the entire energy sector in Uganda. How sustainable is it? How much are we absorbed, or how much shock absorbers do we have when it comes to emergency, when it comes to threats that are to safety of people, but also threats that have a serious economic downturn. How ready are we to deal with those? It's also important to ensure safety in all these projects that we undertake. Uganda is a growing country. We have a long way to go. And if we are to have big projects, we must have electricity, we must have energy, and we must have certain things work. Among the things that should work is energy. Energy production should be massive to ensure serious construction projects, serious work, but also serious development and survival of people. People are going to continuously rely so much on energy for all their day-to-day work, from cooking, to factories, to hospitals, to, name it. I mean, traffic lights. Every day, life is going to depend so much on energy. We don't need to have mistakes. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It is always a pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure to have our conversationists. And today we had Justine, we had Denis, we had Angela, and Richard, who have been very gracious to share with us their opinions. I thank Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV for putting this together. I've been your host, Martin, and I wish you a great week and a great afternoon.